So what's in your wallet? That's a question in the gospel today. Not in those words, but in similar. And we'll get to that in a minute. See, the whole scene is this. The leaders, the religious leaders at that time are worried about Jesus. They're really concerned about what he's saying, and so they come up with these schemes and they want to trap him. And that's what today is all about. When the person goes to Jesus and asks him a question, it's really not a question. It's an attempt to hear something from him that they would consider to be blasphemous, so they can build their case against him. So it's a plot. And knowing that, Jesus, who is clever, knowing that, he said, "Why are you testing me?" And he calls them hypocrites. And hypocrites is like a two-faced person. It's like an actor who has, one persona on stage and another persona off stage. And so he recognizes their hypocrisy. And then came the answer to that question: what's in your wallet? What's in your purse? Show me the coin. Who is this on the coin? And they said, Caesar. And when he asked them that question, and they showed him the coin, then they exposed themselves in the act of violating the command to not have graven images. Remember from the 10 words, the commandments? No idols. See, Caesar was the son of Caesar Augustus, whom many of the people equated to be a god. So Jesus is saying, you are violating the commandment. And remember that in that first reading we heard, I am the Lord God, there is no other. But these people who are at times so self-righteous, these hypocrites, are carrying in their purse the image of an idol. And Jesus recognizes that, and he calls them to task on that. Whose image? Whose inscription? So then, to whom do you give your loyalty? Who is first? Who is first? And it came to me later, I didn't say this yesterday, but it came to me later. Thomas More, who was the chancellor at the time and had a little run-in with the king and then was thrown into jail. And then the king said, as they're about to behead him, you can change all of this. And he said, I die as the king's servant, but first as God's. First as God's servant. And so that's what Jesus is saying to these hypocrites. To whom are you loyal? Who is your God? Is it in this image? Or is it the God of the covenant? So at a deeper level, and this is as much for us as it was for them at that time, whose image, Jesus asked, do you bear? Whose image do we bear in and through our lives? We say that we have been created in the image and likeness of God. Do we honestly believe that about ourselves? Do we honestly believe that about others, about all who have been created by God? Created in the very image and likeness of God. And if we truly believed it and lived it out, wouldn't it all be different? Wouldn't it all be different if we truly believed that we are created in the image and likeness of God, and that all people are created in the image and likeness of God? It would be so, so different. Now, I want to mention that I'm here because Father Ray is not here, and he's away celebrating his mother's 90th birthday, which is really great. And when we were looking at a date, about my coming, he asked about this particular weekend, and I said yes. And also, he had been asked if it would be okay if I could speak about a project that I had started back a few years ago in Honduras. Now, you may not even remember this, but I was here like 14 years ago speaking about Honduras, and I've not been back since. So a lot has happened in those 14 years. And I'm going to give you a little background. That I went to Honduras in September of 2001, or the 16th of September. I arrived there. And I was struck by so many things. See, Honduras is one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere, maybe number 2. Not that it's not a race, but they just happen to be in the second place after Haiti. And there were so many needs, and I was looking and I'm saying, okay. Then something happened. It was like a defining moment, We have a small clinic that belonged to the parish, and there was a doctor who was volunteering time. He came from Ohio, and he was down for a week, and I went to see him after the first day and asked how things went, and he said, "Oh, good, but," and I, well, wait, what do you mean, what's this? Good, but, what happened? And then he said, this woman came to me with her infant at her breast, and she had no milk to feed her child, and they both were severely malnourished. And he said to me, I honestly believe that within 3 or 4 days, they both will be dead. So we went out and got things, and brought them to the village where she was, and we found her with their 5 other children. So that moment stayed with me for a while, and it raised the question, all right, St. Laurent, if you're going to be here, if you're going to stay here, what are you going to do? Because God did not create you just to take up space. God did not create us just to take up space. We are here on this planet Earth at this time in all of human history, not of our own choosing. So why are we here? Why are we here? Taking up space, or learning still and struggling with the will of God. But it's not to do nothing and just to take up space. God has put us here at this time in this place for a purpose, for a reason. So anyway, I had a gathering. I gathered together 4 people that I knew, young men, and they were at that time in their mid-20s or so and had children, and they wanted a better life for their children, for certain. And I presented them some things. As I say so often, look, I didn't grow up in an agricultural society. I grew up in a place called Somersworth. Anybody know where that is? Yes. 100 years ago, there was a great rivalry with Somersworth High School and at that time what was called St. John's. I remember as a kid going to watch the games, even here in Concord with my brother. But anyway, that's another story. So that's where I grew up, but it wasn't agricultural. So, but these guys had grown up on that land, and they had worked with their grandfathers and their fathers. So they had the experience and the wisdom, and so we talked about things and came up with an idea, and we started, and I discovered that 50% of children in rural Honduras, at least 50% of children in rural Honduras, suffer from chronic malnutrition. And what that means is they don't develop. It's caused stunting. And so we decided that we would try to do something that would make a difference, and we got into gardens, family gardens, community gardens, school gardens, and in the rural schools up in the hills, and the children learn how to prepare a piece of land and how to plant and how to use this drip irrigation system that uses very little water. And then when it comes, and how to maintain the garden. And then when it's harvest time, you know, they can harvest the cucumbers and tomatoes and onions and yucca and plantain, whatever they have planted, and that's for them. And oftentimes, if they have an abundance, then they bring it home and they share it with their family or their neighbors, you know. And there was one school that decided that they needed things in the school. Now, the school would be one room, right? And it could be 50 kids. It could be, I've seen as many as 80 with one teacher in grades 1 through 6. So they decided that they needed things for the school. So what they did is they created a little business, and they set up a stand outside the school to sell what they had harvested and use that money to buy what was needed in the school. But the point is this: they're eating better, and continued. The other thing that I discovered is that and only 19.8% of students in the area of San Francisco de la Paz, which is where I was based in the parish. And you have the parish, and then San Francisco de la Paz, and the parish, which is St. Francis of Assisi. San Francisco de la Paz, the town, and then St. Francis of Assisi, the parish, has 35 villages that belong to the parish. And then you add another town that was there, Guarizama, that has another 30 or so villages, and then at the time there was Manto. And so it ended up with, you had 3 towns and 85 villages. So impossible to get there every week. But anyway, 19.8%, let's say 20% of students who start first grade would finish the equivalency of high school. Okay, so 80% don't. So I said, okay, we're going to try something. And we started the program that we call Adelante, which means forward. And why would kids not go to school? Why would they drop out after the 6th grade? Some of it is economic. Some of it was distance. And we felt that we could at least address the economic questions of kids who don't go to school, continue their schooling, because they don't have the money to buy what they need to go to school. They don't have the money for notebooks. They don't have the money for shoes. They don't have money for the uniform. And if you don't have that, you cannot go to school. So we started this program called Adelante, and we have sponsors. And since we started, cumulatively, we have supported over 1,200 students. And we see many more who come to our program who are graduating. And we have a tutoring program. For those who fall below an average of 80, they must come to the tutoring program. And we have tutors that have been there since we started the program, and they themselves have finished university. So we have people with computer science, agro-industrial engineering, mathematics, education, civil engineers, that are working as tutors and giving back their time. And it's really marvelous to see. So those are the 2 main things, you know, that we started with: education and nutrition. And now there's something new that has come to us. And there was a parish outside of Cleveland, Ohio, that started about the same time I did, working in the same area, making a commitment. And they committed to building chapels in these villages or repairing chapels. They built a couple of homes. They worked on putting in new latrines and also water filtration systems. And they put water filtration systems in 56 villages. So when the water comes in, there is a place where there's a little building that houses the filtration system, and the water is filtered, and it is good for drinking. And the people can come to that place, fill up their jugs, and they have clean drinking water, which, in the big picture, means they're healthier because they're not drinking the contaminated water that causes all types of intestinal problems. So we were asked if we could take the responsibility of maintaining and sustaining those 56 systems. So we're doing that. And it just, I think, ties in nicely to what we want and having, healthier communities. And most recently, as COVID-19 has affected us, it also has affected, the whole world in this pandemic. And San Francisco de la Paz is no exception. And it has had a tremendous impact, on the economy. And we started distributing food to people. And thanks to the generosity of donations that we received, almost $19,000 or more. And these are the figures that I just received. We have provided food to 1,300 families. Now, these are poor families and live in the rural. And of those 1,300 families, there are 3,700 children and a little over 6,300 adults that we have provided food since April. And thanks be to God, we have a well on the property that we use where our main garden is. And the guys loaded up the tank on the back of the truck and would bring water to people. It's not drinking water, but it's just water for their daily use when people did not have it because of the lack of rain. And so that's what we are about. That's what we're doing, but we cannot do it. We've not been able to do it since we started back in March of 2002 without the help of people like yourselves. And you've had people from here who have come down on a few occasions, and have worked with us. And that's always a possibility. Once this whole thing clears up, we hope, however and whenever, that we'll be able to resume, welcoming groups to come down and work with us and get a picture, of the reality. So please keep that in mind. But what I'm saying now is this. I'm asking for your help, and you can do that. First of all, open your circle of prayer and bring us in. And bring in the people, of Honduras, in those people who are struggling, where there's 60% poverty, or more, probably, and these days, And it's also been a country that has been racked by violence, and the political corruption is beyond imagining. And the poor always, always, always suffer. So bring them in to your circle, please. And if you can do something otherwise and make a contribution to assist us, that would be great. And at the end of this liturgy, there'll be people giving out information with envelopes that you can use. And they may even, if you want to drop something in a basket today, you can do that. And for those of you who may be watching us, welcome to this liturgy. And if you want to help and to donate and it's for anyone, you can go, I believe, on the parish website. It gives the information as to where, or you can go to projectedenhonduras.org and make your contribution online. So whatever, and however, I thank you so very much. And may God bless you all and all those who are close to your heart. Thanks. Muchísimas gracias.